taking over. We're not all back yet. And still we're going to start sharing. Or the next illusion, which is dinner, is going to pass us by. So how can we best discuss theosophical issues together on the ITC platform and get to the core? Keeping in mind what we talked about last night, that we don't want to live like cats and dogs together, right? So, and what are our top 3 suggestions in the light of belief, trust, and unity? So Sieglinde is already nodding. So Sieglinde, would you share the top 3 suggestions with us? Yes.
Okay. We have struggled a lot to define 3 points.
Did you suffer?
Well, not really.
Okay, good.
Not really. But so we summed it up like what helps most with understanding Blavatsky in each tradition. This is what we should help each other to understand. Mm-hmm. The second point was that we should try to have an above-personal discussion and step away from historical events, so leave the past in the past, but look at the future. Put interpretations
Sorry, could I interrupt just for a second?
Yeah?
An above-personal discussion?
Yes, or an impersonal discussion, you can put it... Yeah.
Just for those of us who
leave personal opinions aside.
Okay.
Yeah, but try to look at things from as impersonal as possible.
Okay.
So, and then the very practical and third proposal was put interpretation of doctrines in contrast to identified core ideas, which we have talked before. We had identified them before, that was our task, no? And then look at interpretations and find out where the interpretation modifies the core ideas without being in contradiction to the original teachings. So that was a point of discussion too. Yeah? What means...
Could you help us just a little bit, Sieglinde, just a little bit more? Can you modify an original idea without being in contradiction? Is that possible?
Yes,
and
of course. You can enlarge an idea, for example. You can make it greater. Elaborate on it.
Right.
Yeah. So it is not the word by word original, as people say. And then
sorry to interrupt you again. You don't mean modify by changing, but you mean elaborate.
Yes.
Work from it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
And well, it can be. We thought it can have even new ideas in it, but those new ideas fit into the big picture. They are not in contradiction to the. What has been given before.
They're in line.
Yeah. So it is not. We did not discuss that in such a large scale. But you could say that if it is said that there is only a part of the teachings unveiled, then everything which unveils a greater part of the teachings is identified, or if it is in contradiction to that, to those teachings. Is it clearer than now what I said? Yeah, to the picture we have found.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Rolf?
Yeah. Okay. Eugene's diagram was the reason why we thought about. Before we discuss something, to create a common ground. This means we have to look for where we stand. Do we focus on the same thing? And most important, that we use simple definitions. For an example, I could now ask Eugene to explain his diagram. Yeah.
In 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes.
3.
3?
With the object.
Yeah. Okay. And there was other suggestion at the start of a workshop. Yeah. Each member of the workshop should have the same informations about the subject in it. Yeah. We missed it now.
What do you mean?
Yeah, about the questions within the subject. Yeah, that it is for everybody clear, like in a handout, with a handout or something, like this. Yeah.
Each one,
Individual. Yeah, each individual.
Yeah, so understanding, being on the same page is very important in what you're saying. If you're not, we need to inquire and find out that as a starting point.
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, what group is next? Yeah, Henk?
In our group, it was the situation was this: is first we had the first question about what is now the core of Theosophy, and that was in fact such a beautiful answers came there, and it was people reacted to each other, etc. So when the next question was from, well, what should we do to get that working in the ITC? There was only a great, huh? I mean, we are busy with it, and what is the problem? So it was a kind of completely non-understanding of why this question would have been asked. But now I hear very beautiful things from the other side. So, but furthermore, we were in fact also already during the first question, the many discussion went about also the applications of Theosophy. So you have the core issues, but also from how do you reach scientists with new technological developments and those kind of important things, education, cloning, etc. So there was already going on a thought about that. Now then there was what we already know. There are already now people from different theosophical organizations who cross-pollinate to, in fact, to form, you call it concentration groups on such important social issues. And, well, the ITC may be also a kind of fruitful center where those things may start.
An incubator.
Incubator.
Yes. Okay.
While in the same time it stays on from the core, of course.
Yes.
Because that which we all joins us.
Okay.
So I think that is the main things of the group. Yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, you say from the core, new things can start.
Yeah.
And we start building bridges, basically.
Yeah,
That's
for
what,
instance,
that's what
it
we
may
do.
be that, of course, we are now thinking about what is the core of Theosophy.
Uh-huh.
But, of course, you do that you can also apply it to important facets of the society.
Exactly.
And when you are studying that, you remark that you don't understand the core enough, not enough. That's always the case. When you try to apply it to psychology, to psychological problems, then you say, okay, I do not understand the Theosophy enough. At that moment, you discover that. Well, then it's the point that you go back to the core and you try to find even a more better understanding to go back to the issue.
Which is a great thing to do together.
So, and that
Excellent,
may be also one of the things which may pass in the ITC.
Wonderful.
So,
Thank you.
this was the group.
Who's next?
Can we?
Yeah. And
Right.
then we'll go to Bianca after
Okay.
you.
Yeah, we keep it in the family, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you. Well, the question was about communication via the ITC platform. So among ourselves, we understand and what suggestions we would have there and could give to each other. We have a number of suggestions written down here, but let me take out one, because I think that's in line with what Ralph was saying. So when we talk with each other, and we are not all coming from the same country, and I understand people in East of America, they have a different language than in west of the United States. So when we talk with each other, that we all understand each other. And of course you can write dictionaries or glossaries, what Blavatsky also did as well, to explain what we are talking about. But we have, in particular this morning, experienced, we had different presentations where it was mentioned about faith, or perhaps blind faith. And I think everybody understands what it was all about, but there was different interpretations about that. So when we talk with each other, and in particular in dialogue, that we do very well understand from each other what we are talking about. If Sieglinde talks about impersonal, that we all understand, well, what exactly do we mean by impersonal, or do we perhaps understand something else about that? So when we start conversations, first of all, to make sure from each other, is this correct, what I understand, what you are saying there? And otherwise, and I think that is something we learned from the past, you get the misunderstandings. So that is, I think, the most important suggestion coming out of our group.
Thank you very much. Bianca.
So there were two questions that we had to find answers to. And the first one, what do we understand to be the core teachings? And we came to the conclusion when we also listened to the presenters earlier today that there's not so much difference, there's no difference really between what we understand to be the core teachings, but we did give it a try and write down something about it. Mm-hmm. And it was, this is what we made out of it. It's comprehending what nature really is, its embodied universe, and hence there is interconnectedness. And so there is a moral and ethical way to behave, and this ethical way to behave can be extracted from studying these universal ideas that were brought also by HPB. So what the next question was to give us some suggestions in discussing theosophical issues. Mm-hmm. And we thought, so what is exactly meant by it? And we came to the conclusion that you have to do something with what you understand to be core teachings. And we looked around and we say, okay, there's a lot of things going on in this world, maybe more than some time ago. So how do you apply what you learned, what you know, what you study? And there we started with one thing that we all agree on and all know is spiritual unity as a fact. And since we think that cooperation is really important, Joop from our group will explain the second part of our...
Okay, this is teamwork.
Well, we stepped into the application of the essence of the teachings because we had already a discussion this morning about how to reach out to the world. The fact is also that what we see in the world is disharmony and unbalance. We see, for instance, the refugee problem at the borders of Europe. So disharmony is also a fact. And with Theosophy, we can provide a vision and insight into the cause and effect relations about this harmony. At the spiritual level, if we talk about religious refugees fleeing their country, about mental refugees when they are forbidden to speak about certain political ideas, or physical refugees or economical refugees, whatever you call it, because they have no food in their home country. So we think that there is a big task, for instance, for this type of issues. So we were busy in identifying social relevant issues in the world where we could cooperate together. And then if we have built up this logic, this vision, which we, by the way, would like to communicate in refreshed phrasings, in words that are not really always the terminology that we are using inside theosophical circles, but with new, fresh phrases that appeal to everyone. If we do that, and when we have those visions ready, we have to connect, for instance, to other groups or organizations to give in smart and creative ways the theosophical view an active voice with the ultimate purpose to have a high impact on minimizing suffering in the world. And that is how far we came.
That's pretty far. And Joop, tomorrow afternoon we can continue on that, because on one specific issue we're going to see together how we can cooperate to bring something to the world. And I think we will keep in mind how we can do that in fresh language that appeals to the people who we need to talk to.
Okay.
And logic. Excellent. Thank you very much. Barend. Helena.
So, Barend, help me. The first question was about HPB's core message, I think, right? So, HPB's core message. The unfolding of your life is the continuous journey of your soul, where the conductor is your master teacher, the train car you're riding in is your reincarnating family, the train line is your spiritual family, the tracks are your karmic skandhas, and the fuel or the propellant is your intention.
That's a great analogy. Nice.
I don't know how that came out. And then the next question. The first principle we came up with was we should meet and communicate at a Buddhic level with ourselves and with everybody we come in contact with. Two, clarifying is very important. Finding where you are and others are coming from, and it's important to be flexible. The third principle was...
Sorry, Helena. Be flexible?
Be flexible.
Bending over backwards? What do we do?
Because sometimes Jean can explain this.
Cooperation, huh?
And just what before you explain, the third one was listening with your heart. But Jean's going to explain clarifying.
Flexibility.
Flexibility. Basically,
Could you stand up, please?
Oh,
thanks.
Sorry. Flexibility is just a conception that if we understand where an individual is coming from and we clarify what they mean, if it's in sync, then we can have dialogue because it meets our expectation. If what we find out when we clarify does not meet our expectation, we have to understand their expectation and their position or principle of action, where they're coming from, change ours to meet them where they are so that we can communicate. So we have to be flexible in that respect, and that's just riding the scale of our being, so to speak.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Who's next?
We had quite a bit of discussion, but our answers are short and sweet. So, the answer to what is her core teaching, we talked a lot about her books. We have, on one hand, the Secret Doctrine, and especially the Proem, the three fundamental propositions. And on the other hand, the other bookend would be the Voice of the Silence. So you can come at it from the Voice of the Silence, focusing on the message of compassion, or if you're more inclined, you come at it from the three fundamental propositions, a more intellectual or philosophical approach. But in both cases, they both point to the wisdom between. So depending on your nature, you're going to find one path or the other, but they're both HPB's core message. The second question about how do we communicate amongst our ITC world with each other is, first, listening is more important than speaking. And how do we listen? Listen sincerely and with an open mind. And then express, when it's our turn to speak, express gently with respect and an open heart. That's
Excellent, thank you very much. And then who do we have left?
Okay, so yeah, thanks. Because we have this whole mind map. We started simple. It was just compassion at first, and then it started to become. Maybe you can show also that side. Yeah, a bit more complex. But I think, I mean, we talked about compassion. There's something in there, so there is something sharing in there. So, but then again, it's also. It has to come from inside, so it also needs some authenticity. So, and of course, it is already in us, within us all. So we had some keywords around, and we had this discussion that wisdom cannot really be separated from it, and that the two are really blend together. So, and we're actually talking about oneness then, and so we merged them into the O of oneness. So that was our first discussion ongoing, and that's also the first suggestion for ITC, that we just start or actually continue this process of truth finding. So truth as opposed to, well, this or that teaching coming from this or that organization or teacher, just, okay, let's just see, okay, what is the truth in there? And that's, of course, an ongoing process. And then secondly, that coming from the same core, we all agree that this is just, we're always talking about the same, we have the same intentions, the same motivation. So just constructively build on each other's ideas and traditions. And then you have, of course, a basis, and there is more than enough, at least 13,000 pages of Blavatsky, or probably more. So, and then we can show how, from different traditions, different writings, how it helps to understand the message of Blavatsky even better. And then just continuing the dialogue, and we just had the feeling that while we are doing this, this is really what it was about. So we were already practicing it, and it works. So, and but it's more than just sitting together and talking. We actually felt that there is this lodge force also working here. So it was not a term everybody was familiar with, but it is very nicely put in the Bible, where it says, "Where two or more are gathered in my name, I am in their midst." And we sort of felt we have this atmosphere, and we should even try to strengthen it and continuing building up this atmosphere together further. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you very much. Funnily, I walked around a bit, and I see it with you, but I've seen it with different groups that they were kind of surprised at the second question. So, but we're already doing it, so let's continue there, right? And so basically, what you're saying, Erwin, is we need to investigate together, and once we do that, it means that we leave our beliefs behind. We investigate, we're curious, we want to find out, and basically what then happens is we start to experience unity together. That's basically what we're doing. So, guys, this was a very good first morning and first afternoon. You will see tomorrow afternoon that these are the building blocks to see if we can actually, that would be fantastic, build something that fills in the gap between this conference and the conference next year. So if we can bridge that and continue working together, that will be fantastic, but we will need your ideas, and we already heard a couple of them, to come out tomorrow. And I think now it's time to have our picture taken.
Don't you think they all look beautiful?
Fantastic. They're in their best dress, right? I think so.